There's something really strange happening in the world of automation right now. There's this huge disconnect between what you hear online and what's actually happening inside big companies. And if you're a business owner trying to figure all this out, you're caught right in the middle of this confusion. So let's break it all down and get some real clarity.
So here's the problem in a nutshell. You go online, you look around on social media, and you see this constant drumbeat. Stop learning NA. NA is dead. But then, you look at the enterprise reality, you look at public case studies, and you see a massive European telecom company saving £2.2 million using that exact same tool. So, how can both of these things possibly be true? Well, spoiler alert, they can't.
And all this conflicting noise, it leads to the single most expensive mistake you can make, which is classic analysis paralysis. The real cost here, the thing that's actually hurting your business, isn't picking the wrong tool, it's picking no tool. It's the cost of just standing still while your competitors are out there automating and getting way ahead.
So, how do we break this stalemate? What's the way out? Well, the answer isn't about picking a side in this debate. The teams that are getting incredible results, especially in these complex IT and telecom environments, they're using a hybrid approach. They think about it like an architect and a building. Let's dig into what that actually means.
The idea behind this hybrid approach is actually pretty simple and honestly quite elegant. You use AI agents, think of things like the coding assistant Claude Code, as your development tool. This is for the design phase, to build and figure out your automations super fast. Then, for production, for the real world, you deploy those automations onto a super robust workflow platform, like N8N, so they can run reliably at scale. You're separating the blueprint from the actual building.
Let's really stick with this house building analogy because it's perfect. Your AI agent is the architect. It's brilliant. It can draft these incredible, complex blueprints in hours instead of weeks. But here's the thing. You can't live in the blueprints. The workflow tool, that's the actual house. That's the solid structure, the plumbing, the electricity, the whole thing that has to work 24/7, no matter what. You need both to actually succeed.
Okay, so we get the hybrid model, but why is it so important? Why is it basically non-negotiable for any serious business? Well, the answer really comes down to one simple question. What happens when things go wrong? Because let's be honest, in a live, running production system, things will go wrong eventually.
This quote right here from Kara Magdachi, who's a 20-year veteran in telecom IT, it just perfectly captures the risk. He's talking about a real-world disaster where a process was failing silently. The system logs, they all said success. Everything looked fine. But the actual data, the output, was totally wrong for 3 whole days. The issue wasn't the code itself. The real problem was a total lack of what he calls observability. A tiny error just snowballed into this massive business problem before anyone even knew it was happening.
And that story is exactly why a production system is a totally different animal. You absolutely have to have these 4 things. First, observability. The ability to see exactly what ran, when it ran, and why it failed. Second, retry logic, so you can handle little temporary network glitches without the whole thing falling over. Third, item potency, and this is a big one. It's a fancy word that just means if a process accidentally runs twice, it doesn't create duplicate invoices or duplicate customer orders. And finally, you need a system you can actually hand off to your team so they can monitor and manage it.
We've talked about tools, we've talked about architecture, but now we're getting to the most important part, the biggest mental shift of all. Because the #1 mistake people make with automation isn't picking the wrong tool. It's that they start by thinking about the tool in the first place. The real answer, the right way to do this, always starts with the business problem.
This is it, a simple 4-step framework that actually delivers results. Step 1, find a process in your business that is costing you real time or real money. Step 2, map that entire process out manually. And remember, if you can't explain how it works to another person, you have no chance of explaining it to a machine. Only then, in step 3, do you even think about choosing a tool. And finally, step 4, you have to measure your results in clear business terms. How many dollars did we save? How many hours did we get back?
And here's a really simple rule of thumb for step 3, for choosing that tool. Just ask yourself this. Does this process need to run on a schedule? Does it need to handle failures? Does it need to be monitored with logs? If the answer is yes, that's a production job, and it's perfect for a workflow tool like NANTN. But if it needs really complex custom logic and you need to build it fast, that's a development job, and that's perfect for an AI agent. The choice becomes a whole lot clearer.
And the results from using this framework, they honestly speak for themselves. In one real-world case from ByKA, that's ByKA Insights, they had a content production process that cost about €100 for every single video they made.
By applying this framework, they got that cost down to just €3.50. That's a 96% cost reduction. That is the kind of power you unlock when you start with the business case first.
So, look, if you only remember one thing from all of this, please make it this mantra: business problem first, tool choice second, and always, always, always focus on the revenue impact.
And that all leads us to the final and most important question. We need to stop asking, which tool should I learn, and start asking this instead. What is the single most expensive, most time-consuming manual process happening in my business right now? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where your real automation journey truly begins.